I've reached my limit. I hate to ask, but can I crash at your place for a few days?
Dad had been kicked out of the family home by my sisters and Mom, and now he stood at my doorstep. Seeing Dad, who had always been so strong, talk about reaching his limit, I blamed myself. "I'm sorry, Dad." In that moment, as I tried to apologize for my inability to help alleviate his suffering, my husband Ethan spoke up.
"Let's live with your father-in-law."
"Are you sure?" I turned to Ethan, surprise evident in my voice. Dad, too, could barely hide his shock, his eyes wide open. "My name is Emily. I'm 26 years old. Ethan and I started dating in college, and we got married 2 years ago. Our days are filled with a fulfilling work-life balance. Ethan is my best supporter, always by my side. I never thought I'd find someone who gives me such confidence, let alone marry them. As the youngest of 3 sisters, I grew up in an environment where I could never go against my mom and my sisters. I was always the last one in line for attention from Mom, and also the lowest in rank among my sisters. Every time I voiced an opinion, sharp words would come flying back at me. Over time, I stopped expressing myself and started to suppress my feelings. I bore the treatment of being treated like a servant by my mom and my sisters without complaining. "I wanted a boy. When I found out you were another girl, I was so disgusted. Grace and Ashley are enough for girls. You're an unwanted child, and yet here you are in this house. If you want to stay here, you have to work." Mom often belittled me like this. Even if you tell me that, how many times have I swallowed my words, the ones I wanted to say back to her? By the time I entered elementary and middle school, I was in charge of most of the household chores, from preparing meals and doing laundry to getting the bath ready. People around me would praise me, saying, "That's impressive," or "You're so responsible." But I only found joy in that at first. "It's a given that you do all these things," Mom would say with no words of thanks or praise. Instead, I was constantly being reprimanded for my cooking or the way I folded the laundry. The one who kept me going through all this was Dad. Unlike Mom and my sisters, Dad loved me and respected me. As the only man in the family, Dad was not well liked by Mom and my sisters, and his power within the family was as low as mine. But he always stood up for me.
"I'm sorry, Emily. You always have to put up with so much. If only we could all live in harmony."
Dad would often hold me tight and say these things. Despite his early mornings and late nights for work, Dad would always spend his days off with me, fulfilling Mom and my sister's demands together. And he always listened to my feelings and accepted my words. But my mom and her cohorts didn't seem to like that. "There's no one to protect you today," they'd tell me, pushing more chores onto me. They'd hurl harsh words at Dad too, such as, "For a man, low income." And my sisters would follow their lead, laughing and saying, "Disgusting!" and "Don't open your mouth." So no matter how much Dad tried to be a pillar of support, I was becoming increasingly frail. Noticing my distress, Dad said something to me when I entered high school.
"Emily, study as much as you can, then go to college. Leave this house and live on your own. You, Emily, have so many possibilities. There's no need to endure and stay in this house forever. I want you to live your life,"
my father urged me. At his words, I felt both elated and anxious. At the time, my eldest sister Grace, 6 years older than me, was attending a private university. Ashley, 4 years older, was at a vocational school. Mom would often ridicule Dad for his low income and tell me, We're poor because he doesn't bring in money, so you should start working once you graduate from high school. Because of this, I believed our family was financially struggling. Despite that, I worried if Dad was pushing himself too hard, telling me to go to college and live on my own. But Dad insisted there's no need to worry about money.
I feel responsible for making you suffer so much. That's why I don't want you to endure any longer.
Dad,
this is a request from your father. You don't have to worry about anything. Just go to the university you want, study what you want. Find what you love to do. I want you to lead a happy life to make up for the hardship you've been through.
I could feel his strong resolve as he gripped my shoulder, his eyes moist with tears. From then on, I devoted myself to the studies I had neglected. Juggling the overbearing instructions from my mom and sisters, I spent all my remaining time studying at my desk. My hard work paid off, and I was accepted into a university. Dad and I embraced each other, sharing the joy of my acceptance. I kept it a secret from Mom and my sisters until the last minute, only announcing my plans to go to college and live alone on the day I was moving. At that time, Grace had already moved out and was living on her own, leaving only Mom and Ashley at home, who showered me with shouts of rage. I endured their harsh words until the end, finally breaking free from them. I kept my new mobile phone, a gift from Dad, a secret, not telling them which university I was going to or where I was going to live. Though I stayed in touch with Dad, I started a life without any involvement with my mom or my sisters. But just because I escaped from them didn't mean my university life was smooth sailing. I wasn't used to speaking my mind, and as a timid person, I was somewhat invisible in my department, unable to make friends. Then, Ethan reached out to me.
What do you think, Emily?
I was surprised when Ethan, the bright and central figure of the group, spoke to me. I was already uncomfortable speaking in front of people, and being put on the spot by him left me speechless. But Ethan pressed me.
You have thoughts, right? Share them. We won't know unless you say something.
A person who is pushy and doesn't consider other people's feelings. I initially thought of Ethan as pushy and inconsiderate. But as time passed, I came to see the kindness in Ethan, how he respected people's opinions. Thanks to Ethan, I started to make friends. Before long, I found myself drawn to Ethan, and by our third year, our relationship had progressed to dating. When I started dating Ethan, Dad excitedly congratulated us. And when I found a job, when Ethan and I decided to move in together, and when we decided to get married, Dad celebrated my happiness as if it was his own. But I had always been worried about Dad. Since starting university, I hadn't been home and hadn't seen Dad even once. We stayed in touch, but I was still concerned. Dad was living at that place with Mom and the others. I had no doubt he was still enduring snide comments from Mom and Ashley, still spending his days under their domineering instructions. Dad, I'm happy today because of you. Back then, I was powerless and always needed your help. But things have changed. I'm working now and I'm married. I have someone who supports me. So now it's my turn to help you. Please let me know if you're in any trouble. When I announced my marriage, I told him that. Having learned the importance of expressing my feelings to others since being with Ethan, I was finally able to put into words what I had never been able to tell Dad before.
Thank you.
Dad replied that way, but until now, 2 years later, Dad never asked me for help. Furthermore, recently, I heard that Grace, who was supposed to be living alone, quit her job and returned to our parents' house. My worry for Dad had only increased. Then one day, the doorbell rang just as I was confiding in Ethan about how worried I was about Dad. December was almost over, and even though it wasn't even 4 p.m., it was already getting dark outside. We had no scheduled deliveries, so we were surprised when we looked at the screen of the intercom. The person shown by the camera was none other than Dad. I rushed to the front door and opened it. Seeing Dad for the first time in 8 years, his cheeks were hollowed out, and there was more white than black in his hair. He looked visibly unwell. I instinctively knew that his sudden visit without any notice wasn't for a casual reason. "Dad, what's happened? Please come inside. It must be cold outside." Dad was wearing trousers and a long-sleeve shirt, even in December. This seemed too thin. Why would he be outside dressed like that? But the reason was revealed from Dad's mouth. Dad was kicked out of the house by Mom and the others.
"They told me to go buy dessert, so I went to the nearby convenience store. But when I came back, the house was locked. I asked them to open up, but they told me not to come back and didn't let me in."
What?
"I left the house without my phone or jacket, but I waited for several hours and they didn't seem to let me in."
As Dad rubbed his cold body, he told us about what happened that day. I quickly made some hot tea and gave it to Dad. Dad held the cup of tea with both hands to get warm and muttered softly,
"I might not be able to go back to that house again."
Why?
"Ever since Grace came back, Mom and the others' attitude got even worse. I was feeling at my limits too, and then they did this to me. I don't even have the energy to go back. I think I should look for a monthly apartment and think about what to do in the future. I'm sorry, but could I stay here for a few days? I'll leave as soon as I find an apartment."
I was worried, but I hadn't imagined it was this bad. Dad, who never complained before, was talking about his limits? "I'm sorry, Dad." I was about to apologize to Dad for knowing about his troubles and not being able to do anything when...
"Let's live with your father."
Ethan raised his voice. "Are you sure?" I turned to my husband in surprise. Dad, too, unable to hide his surprise, opened his eyes wide.
"Sorry for being blunt, especially since we just met, but your father-in-law doesn't look too healthy. I think it would be best if we lived together to help him recover. Everything else can be figured out later, of course, only if he's okay with this."
Ethan's suggestion left Dad and I with nothing but gratitude. And so our new life as a trio began. Just a few days after Dad moved in, our doorbell rang again. All three of us were stunned by the figures displayed on the intercom screen. Mom and my sisters were standing there. Why here? Shocked and bitter past memories made my breath hitch. But I had to face them. I didn't know what they would do next. In a panic, I opened the door. "Wow, I didn't expect you to be living in such a fancy place. I thought you were scraping by in some rundown apartment." Hearing Mom's voice after such a long time, all I could feel was resentment. "Why are you here?" "Your father's mobile had your address in it. I had no idea Emily even had a mobile phone." "Why would you give him your contact info but not us? Are you honoring the wrong person?" Just as before, Grace arrogantly looked down at me. After Mom's words, seeing her like this, Mom smiled satisfied and spoke again. "Well, never mind. Is your father here? We're having some trouble without him." Even though she said they were in trouble, there were no signs of actual distress. All three of them were smirking. "In trouble? But you're the ones who kicked him out." "You've become quite sassy, haven't you? So he is here. Move aside." "No," I yelled at Mom and her group. Mom's typical overbearing tone and her condescending remarks about me fueled my irritation. It would have been impossible in the past, but I had changed, all thanks to Ethan. However, Mom's irritation became apparent as she raised her voice. "When did I ever give you permission to talk back? Just move."
You can't even listen to what I say.
I'm not the same person I used to be. I won't be pushed around by you, Mom. I refused firmly. Ethan came up beside me, trying to shoo Mom and the others away. Despite our efforts, Mom and her group wouldn't leave. We repeated, "Move," and "No," until tired of the ordeal or maybe having given up. Mom was the one to break first.
"That's enough. I don't want to hear any more from you. If you won't move, can you at least let us know when the money will be deposited in our account? It's really annoying that all you can do is put money in, and you can't even do that." I was speechless at Mom's words. How did she think she's been able to live without working? My anger reached its peak. From now on, Dad will be living with us. Dad and I will no longer be pushed around by you guys. Please divorce Dad and stop causing him pain. As I couldn't hold back my words any longer, the response from my mom was something I hadn't anticipated. "Don't make it sound like I'm the bad guy. I've been kind enough to stay as a family with a man like him who is low income and can't do a thing. You should be thanking me." "What?" "You're just like your dad, a low-income loser, acting high and mighty, but in the end, all you're doing is licking each other's wounds." I felt like I was about to lose control at Mom's words. I was on the verge of raising my voice, of lashing out, but then my husband spoke. "Emily works hard. She's a supervisor, earning a decent wage. I'd appreciate it if you didn't belittle us with comments about licking wounds."
As my husband stared down Mom, she retorted,
"Don't you dare talk back to me. You're an outsider, so stay quiet."
That's when Mom turned on Ethan. Dad, who should have been in the living room, was suddenly at my side, addressing Mom.
"I've heard enough. We can't impose on Emily and Ethan anymore. Let's get a divorce."
"Dad?" At Dad's words, my sisters chimed in with, "That's fine. That's fine. We don't need a creepy guy like you," one voice called out. Emboldened by my sisters, Mom agreed.
"That's fine by me."
I was dumbfounded by how quickly things had been resolved, but the peace didn't last long.
"But there's one condition. Hand over that house to me, then I'll give you your divorce."
Mom laid out her demand. Just how greedy could this woman be? But Dad quickly agreed to Mom's demand. "Dad, are you sure?" I was shocked, but Dad turned to me and smiled.
"If that's all it takes to get a divorce, it's a small price to pay."
He then turned back to Mom, his face serious.
"I'll do as you ask. Leave for today. I'll come over tomorrow."
With that, Dad sent Mom and my sisters home. They continued to belittle me until the end, but I didn't care. I felt guilty for pushing a divorce and causing Dad to lose his home. But Dad patted my shoulder.
"It's not your fault, Emily. In fact, I'm glad you spoke up."
The next day, Dad went back home one last time with the divorce papers. He made Mom fill out the divorce application, handled some paperwork, and packed his belongings. When Dad came back from our family home, he looked somehow lighter. It was sad to see the house go to Mom and my sisters, but if Dad felt relieved, I was okay with it. A few months later, Dad told me what had happened to Mom and my sisters. They had taken the family home as part of the divorce settlement and planned to live lavishly by selling it. However, the house was old. The location wasn't great. They couldn't sell the house or land for much, and demolition costs ate into the proceeds. In the end, they were left with almost nothing. Now, without a home or savings, Mom didn't work. Neither did Grace or Ashley have stable jobs. And with Dad gone, the same Dad they ridiculed for his low income status while they leaned on him for living expenses, the trio found themselves in dire straits. They tried seeking help, showed up at our house several times, but we never opened the door to them. Still, they refused to give up. causing commotion at the front porch. I finally had to tell them through the intercom, "If you make any more noise, I'll call the cops." That sent them packing. Now it seems they're barely managing, renting an apartment that's too cramped for 3. Even Mom, who never worked before, was seemingly forced to get a job. That's how desperate they were. Despite all the times they made fun of Dad and I as a trio, they now seem to be constantly bickering among themselves. They appear to be blaming each other for their current circumstances. People rarely change. With neither Dad nor me around anymore, the ones they used to ridicule, they can't help but find someone else to target. It seems they're destined to lead lives filled with both physical and emotional poverty. Meanwhile, our lives have taken the polar opposite trajectory. Despite all their mockery about Dad being low income, he had actually been trading stocks for years, amassing a fortune. We only learned about this after the divorce was finalized. Dad feared that if any information leaked out, the trio would try to seize his assets, so he had decided not to mention it until the divorce was over. That's probably why he didn't mind giving up the family home. Now we're living comfortably in a new house that Dad built with his wealth. He quit his job to focus on his stocks. My husband and I have jobs too, so we're not struggling financially. We support each other while each maintaining our own financial independence. We hope to build the loving family that we couldn't have when we were young, from here on out.
My family and I, we are really close-knit. So much so that we try to go on vacation together at least 2 to 3 times a year. And if someone is unable to join us, we make sure to bring them back a souvenir. My name's Jenny. I'm 27, and I live with my family. My dad is usually away due to his busy work schedule. My sister is married and has moved out, so it's usually just my mom and grandfather at home. Lately, though, there's something off about my sister. Even when she visits, she often seems down. "What's wrong, sis? You seem off these days." "Huh? No, I'm alright." "Really? I haven't seen you smile in a while. Is there something going on with your in-laws?" No, nothing's wrong. Stop saying weird things." My sister seemed overly defensive and ended up losing her temper. She left for her in-laws' place that day, but she seemed reluctant. After a few days passed, my sister was back. This time she looked really scared. "What's wrong, sis? Why do you look so terrified?" I'm not terrified." "But you're trembling. What happened?" "Oh, no, nothing. It's just a bit cold." I was quite concerned seeing my sister in this unusual state. Shortly after, someone came to our house. It was Sean, my sister's husband.
"So you were here, huh? We were worried."
"Oh, Sean."
"Sorry for the inconvenience. She got a bit homesick, it seems. Let's go home, Rachel."
"Oh, okay." And she left with Sean. There was an air of desperation about her. "Mom, don't you think there's something off about sis?" "You thought so too?" "She looked really scared when she saw Sean." "I thought the same. I was worried." "Do you think she's being mistreated at her in-laws' place?" With that thought, one day, I decided to visit her in-laws' place. Layla, my sister's mother-in-law, greeted me. "Oh my, it's been a while, Jenny. What brings you here?" "Well, my sister has been acting strange, so I was wondering if everything was all right here." "Everything's fine here. There's nothing unusual." "Really? If you say so." We were chatting at the entrance when I heard a loud noise from the living room. "Oh, what's happening? What's that noise?" "I don't know. Anyway, I'm busy today. You should head back." "Wait a minute. Why won't you let me in?" "You're already in the doorway, aren't you?" "That's not what I meant." Layla flatly refused to let me inside the house. Eventually, I was turned away and couldn't check on my sister. However, a few days later, a shocking incident occurred. My sister returned home crying. "Oh, what's wrong, sis? Are you okay? What happened?" All she did was cry. She couldn't tell me what had happened. Upon closer inspection, I noticed several bruises on her body. It seemed like she'd been harmed by Layla and Sean. This is awful. How could they do something like this? I held my sister tightly as we cried together, but it seemed she had something even more troubling on her mind than her own well-being. The baby! Our baby! My sister already has a child, but the little one is still an infant, unable to do anything by himself. She had come here, but there was no sign of the baby with her. Sis, where's the baby? What happened to the baby? As I asked, she answered through her tears. The baby! They hurt our baby. What do you mean they hurt? What did they do? I've been enduring this for so long. Sean's abuse, my mother-in-law's unreasonable harassment, but when I finally fought back, they threatened the baby. That's too horrible. In order to protect the baby, I endured as much as I could, but... From there, her voice quivered and couldn't speak any further. That's when Grandpa arrived. What's going on? What happened? My sister, in tears, explained the situation to Grandpa. Huh? That's all Grandpa said after hearing the story. In the next moment, he was on the phone with someone. Who are you calling? When I asked, Grandpa didn't answer, but simply said, we're going to their house. So, taking Mom, my sister, and me along, Grandpa drove us towards the in-laws' house. After about a 10-minute drive, we arrived at their place. What's going on? What a surprise to see the whole family come over. The one who welcomed us was Layla. She spoke as if she knew nothing. I've heard that you hurt my dear granddaughter, and even my great-grandchild. Grandpa said this quietly, but Layla just laughed. Who cares? It's not a big deal. And besides, it's all her fault anyway. She pointed at my sister. I wondered what she could possibly be blaming my sister for. She told Sean to limit his sausage intake because of its high purine content, since he was eating it almost every day. What's wrong with letting him eat what he likes? My sister had simply been concerned about her husband's health. And you? You hurt my granddaughter over something like that? You're the ones making a fuss over nothing. It's absurd for you to come all the way here with your whole family. Are you fools? Layla was laughing, not at all embarrassed. Grandpa was silent, but the lines between his brows showed. He was clearly angry. Then my sister's husband Sean appeared. Hey Rachel, you're finally back. Did you go to your parents again? I was worried about you, you know. He didn't look worried at all as he spoke. So, why is the whole family here? We're here to take you down. Huh? Take down? Mom, what's this old man talking about? I don't know, maybe he's going senile? While Layla and Sean were laughing, Grandpa started to laugh as well. The hell are you laughing at? I was just thinking about what's going to happen to you two. Should be any minute now. Arrive? What are you talking about? As Grandpa finished his sentence, one car after another began pulling up and parking in front of my in-laws' house. What's happening? People started getting out of the cars, one after the other, completely surrounding the house. There must have been about 30 people there, give or take, and I recognized most of their faces. They were all my relatives. What on earth? Who are all these people? Why have so many come? They're my family. They all thought they'd step in because they heard my precious granddaughter had been mistreated. What? Stop crowding the front of our house like this. You're being a nuisance. Well then, let's go inside your house. With that, Grandpa led our relatives inside the house. Hey, don't barge in like that. We followed Grandpa inside, and in the living room, there was my sister's baby, crying. Oh no, his face is all swollen. My sister quickly picked up the baby. Could it be they've been hurting the baby ever since my sister left? That would be a major problem. Did you really hurt such a small child? That's not it. This was an unavoidable situation. We didn't want to do this. According to Layla, the baby wouldn't stop crying, so they had no choice but to hit him. Normally, you don't hit a child just because they won't stop crying. Layla and Sean are not right in the head. I can't forgive this. How dare you do this to my family?
Some of our relatives are police officers, so it's possible to take you in on assault charges.
Grandpa was saying this in anger.
Wait, you have police officers? But doesn't this fall under civil matters? Not necessarily if there's evidence of assault.
When Grandpa checked with the relatives, they agreed. After what they did to my sister and the baby, I won't be satisfied until they're taken away by the police. But Layla and Sean were still making feeble excuses.
There's no need to push this hard. We just need to ensure this doesn't happen again. It's cruel to be so angry over this.
Layla's voice trembled as she said this. It seemed she realized the severity of the situation.
Hey, Rachel, say something too. We didn't do anything wrong, did we? It was just a little rough handling.
Even Sean started to make a pathetic excuse. But my sister just looked down in silence.
Hey, say something, Rachel. We're married, right? Help me out here,
Sean yelled at my sister. Grandpa immediately shielded my sister and yelled at Sean.
How dare you talk to my granddaughter like that? But Rachel and I are married. You can't just meddle in a couple's issues like this. It's not right.
Sean tried to argue back, but Grandpa didn't flinch. He just kept confronting Sean.
Enough is enough. By your logic, no matter how much you hurt Rachel, we can't intervene because we're not blood related. As family, how can we possibly stand by?
Grandpa's rage was unyielding, and Sean was so scared that he started to cry.
Wait just a minute. You're the ones who barged into our house. Isn't that trespassing? If I call the police, aren't you the ones who would get arrested?
We're willing to face any punishment for that. But you should be aware that you're doing something far worse than us trespassing, right? You need to face that first.
Wait, what are you saying?
Tears began to stream down Layla's face. Suddenly, Layla stormed into the crowd of relatives.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
As Grandpa tried to stop her, Layla had already lunged at my sister.
What were you thinking calling all these people over? You're causing us problems. Go home, now.
Layla was shaking my sister by her shoulders.
Fix this. Fix this right now.
Stop it. Let go.
Grandpa forcefully pulled Layla away.
Wow, throwing a fragile woman like that. How cruel. Could this be considered assault?
Layla tried to provoke him, but Grandpa was not swayed.
Don't think that'll work. Instead, the problem is you attacking Rachel just now.
But it's not my fault. We were living peacefully and then this happens because of her.
You might have been living in peace, but Rachel wasn't. It seems you've been quite cruel to her. Even to your own great-grandchild. How can you be so shameless?
I'm not being shameless. I'm just stating the facts. Right? Rachel, say something. You've been silent this whole time. It's your fault all of this is happening.
Layla continued to yell at my sister. Then, my sister, who had been silent with her head down, finally spoke up. Mother-in-law, I don't want to live in this house anymore.
What are you talking about?
You and Sean have always treated me terribly. I never thought my marriage would be like this. I want a divorce.
A divorce? What are you saying all of a sudden, Rachel?
My sister must have been holding back for a long time. To protect her child, she sacrificed herself. But with the support of Grandpa and Mom, she seemed to find her courage. She declared her intention to divorce Sean with a steely gaze.
Don't joke around. I'll never agree to a divorce. You're going to live as my servant forever.
No way. I'm not your tool. I won't let you control me.
You're definitely my granddaughter. When you decide to act, you really act.
Grandpa was impressed by my sister's strong stance.
This isn't the time for this conversation. I won't allow a divorce with Sean. I need a servant too. If you're saying you'll divorce, you need to pay Sean compensation.
Why would there be any need for compensation?
Of course.
You've been a pain in the neck for Sean all this while. You owe us a few $1 million in damages.
Hold on, that's out of line.
Grandpa quickly stepped back into the conversation.
It's rather you who've been the bother, isn't it? You've treated Rachel and my great-granddaughter horribly. You should be the ones paying damages in the divorce.
What?
There's no way we're paying that. Besides, we don't have that kind of money.
I won't accept any excuses. You'll pay, even in installments. We have lawyers in the family, so don't think you can just run away.
What? What? You even have lawyers?
Mom, what are we gonna do in this situation? Should we apologize?
Fool! What are you talking about? We don't even know if an apology will be accepted.
But if the company finds out we're getting divorced, it will become awkward at work. Work?
Grandpa seemed to remember something when he heard that.
Come to think of it, I felt like I'd heard of Rachel's husband's company somewhere. I remember now. You work for the company run by my relatives. What? You have relatives there too? There are plenty of punishments waiting for you. But your trespassing isn't the worst of your crimes, is it? We'll need to address that first. Fired? Not just divorced, but fired? Don't joke around. I absolutely won't allow that. Do you think saying you don't want to will get you off the hook? Reflect on what you've done. Mom, do something. I'm going to get fired.
You people. This is just outrageous. It's unfair. Piling up on us like this.
Who was the one doing outrageous things first? All I've been doing is protecting my adorable granddaughter.
Grandpa's eyes were stern as he glared at Layla and Sean. They were so frightened they couldn't even retort.
Let's end this conversation here. Rachel, you can rest easy. Our relatives will handle the rest.
Thank you, Grandpa. As Grandpa began to leave the in-laws' home with my sister, Layla and Sean started to cry out in despair.
Wait! We're the ones who were wrong. Please, don't go through the divorce. I'm begging you.
Sean was shouting desperately, but my sister didn't look back. She got into Grandpa's car and they drove away.
You should give up. Everything that's happened is your own doing.
Why? Why did this have to happen? It's all Mom's fault. What? I'm not the one at fault here. You are.
What did you just say?
Sean and Layla kept arguing until they were out of sight. We went home after that, leaving the legal matters to our family lawyer, the police, and our company's owner. In the end, my sister was able to divorce Sean and even managed to get a settlement. Furthermore, Sean was fired from his job and it seemed hard for him to find a new one. My sister was finally free and she couldn't help but cry tears of joy. A while later, we noticed Sean begin to loiter around our house. It seemed like he wanted to reconcile with my sister, but she had no intention of that happening. The moment Grandpa saw Sean, he was furious. He immediately called our family member, who was a police officer, and had Sean arrested for stalking. After that, a restraining order was placed on Sean, and he no longer came around our house. Finally, peace had come to our home. My sister said she plans to raise her baby with the support of our family for a while. I too am helping take care of the baby and enjoying my life with my wonderful family.
Sorry for the bother. The thing is, he began. The moment I learned the truth, I was filled with surprise, gratitude toward my father-in-law, and a sense of liberation. My name is Charlotte. Born in April, surrounded by the gentle scent of blossoming flowers, as my name suggests. Since then, 45 years have passed. I've devoted my life to my family as a wife and a mother, cherishing each day. But problems arose outside of my family life. I used to spend joyful times with my family alone. I met my husband Joseph at a club in college. We hit it off, started dating, and eventually got married. We have a son, but he's working in the city as a professional, so he only returns home once every 6 months. Ever since it became just the two of us, Joseph and I looked forward to revisiting places we went when we first dated. How about going to Six Flags tomorrow on our day off? Now here's the question. What did Charlotte do 23 years ago at that amusement park? Did I do something? Caught off guard by Joseph's sudden question, my mind raced to remember. Something from that long ago? Oh, I remember. After riding the teacups, I got dizzy and fell into a nearby pond. That's correct. I was so embarrassed I wanted to pretend I didn't know you. How mean! Why did you let go of my hand then? Laughing about my embarrassing moments like this has become a treasured pastime. Even when it's just the two of us at home, the atmosphere never darkens. We lived a happy life. Due to Joseph's shift work, there were days we hardly saw each other. But since I adjusted my work to match his schedule, I rarely felt lonely. However, then a major event that would drastically affect our lives happened. Our father-in-law was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. Surgery was difficult, and the 5-year survival rate was less than 2%. A dire illness. Both Joseph and I were filled with such hatred, our hands clenched into fists. When a loved one suddenly falls ill, you wonder what you can do. What's the best course of action? And your mind goes blank. Joseph has a sister living in the neighboring town, but she doesn't know about this yet. Deciding to inform her soon, Joseph picked up his smartphone and made a call. After 7 rings, a loud, shrill voice echoed through the receiver. "Why are you calling now of all times? I'm busy preparing dinner." "We have something important to talk about. We'll come over tomorrow evening." Despite her complaints about the sudden development, this wasn't the time to worry about such things. After conveying the necessary information, Joseph hung up. Joseph normally didn't pay much mind to his free-spirited sister-in-law, who rarely shows up at family gatherings and doesn't quite mesh well with his personality. But this time, things were different. The next day, we hastily took the day off and headed to her house. When we rang the doorbell, her husband, not the friendliest of individuals, was the first to answer. He opened the door without changing his expression and looked at us with an intimidating stare. Not a pleasant feeling. In the living room, she cast a cold glance at us. Despite not having seen each other for 6 months, she treated us worse than strangers. Amidst this, Joseph fixed his intense gaze on her. Then, as he informed her about their father's illness, she uttered unbelievable words from her mouth. "So what? You came all the way here to say that? The sickness is Dad's fault. Don't tell me you came here expecting me to take care of him." Instead of expressing sadness about her father's illness, she seemed more concerned about avoiding any inconvenience to herself. It was my first time seeing a daughter look down on her father, who didn't choose to get sick, and I felt embarrassed for her as a fellow human being. My anger peaked, and even my parents, who had planned to talk calmly, were getting worn down. "That's too much. You're his daughter, aren't you? Even though a loved one is suffering, you can be so indifferent? If the roles were reversed, you would definitely be upset." I thought she would reflect a bit on what I said and quiet down, but I underestimated her. "Don't talk nonsense. There's no rule that says I have to look after him because I'm his daughter. If you're so concerned about it, why don't you do it? Joseph is his child, just like I am." Indeed, my husband Joseph is also father-in-law's child, and it's not right to put the responsibility on sister-in-law alone. Because she's so irresponsible, I thought she should step up and take care of father-in-law at a time like this. But people like her are good at justifying their behavior. What she said wasn't wrong, and I figured it was futile to argue any further, so I dropped it. Although we were reluctant to leave father-in-law to sister-in-law, who clearly didn't want to deal with this, we, as a working couple, didn't have the time, unlike sister-in-law, who was a housewife. If Joseph had to quit his job, it would be better for our finances if I quit mine, but I found fulfillment in my current job. As I was considering my options, sister-in-law revealed her trump card with a triumphant look on her face. "By the way, Charlotte, you have a nursing certification, don't you? You know more than an amateur like me. I think you should be the one to take care of him. It's reassuring for the patient to have a professional take care of them, isn't it?" I had worked as a CNA in a nursing home 15 years ago, having earned a nursing certification so that I could take care of my parents if something happened, since I'm an only child. Knowing it would be futile to pursue sister-in-law any further, we decided to go home and think things over. "I'm sorry you have such an unfeeling and troublesome sister-in-law. She's not the type to reflect on herself, even if I said something, so I couldn't say anything." "No, it's okay. I knew that no matter what you said, it wouldn't change anything. It's not your fault, Joseph." "What should we do? I can tell you love your job, and I would feel bad taking that away from you just because my dad got sick. But even in a situation like this, it made me happy to see Joseph thinking so much about me. But unlike sister-in-law, I'm not heartless. I wanted to cherish every minute of father-in-law's life. It's okay, don't worry about me. I can figure out my job situation later. The most important thing is I met you thanks to your dad, so I want to express my gratitude. Holding Joseph's hand, I saw his eyes welling up with regret. Let's face this together. Seeing Joseph's expression lighten a bit, I geared up to tackle the bigger problem. The biggest issue here is money, isn't it? While chatting with Joseph, it turned out that my father-in-law had only signed up for the cheapest insurance available. That meant the guaranteed expenses would be minimal, and we'd have to pay out of pocket for necessities. Well, his daughters definitely won't offer to chip in, he said. And they should be contributing more if they're not going to help take care of him. Their lack of dependability was disheartening, even though I hadn't expected much to begin with. Caring for a sick person requires mustering up your own motivation when it's at rock bottom. It's not an easy task. It was a battle against myself. The next day, I decided to step away from my work in the bar kitchen, where I'd enjoyed the camaraderie and hard work alongside the younger staff. When I explained the situation, everyone was understanding, though their disappointment at my leaving was palpable. "Please come back when you can," they said. Those words gave me strength and became my motivation for what lay ahead. With that, I headed straight to the hospital where father-in-law was waiting. Arriving at the hospital, I saw father-in-law from behind, quietly facing away from the entrance. I couldn't tell if he was staring out the window or sleeping, but his loneliness and sadness were palpable, and I couldn't find the words to speak just yet. After about 30 seconds, I took a deep breath and walked closer to father-in-law. As I tried to figure out what to say and how to say it, father-in-law spoke first. "Charlotte, thank you for coming. I'm sorry to be such a burden." His face softened as he greeted me, but quickly his eyes filled with worry, and his expression darkened. He was so considerate, despite his illness, and it angered me that his own daughter, sister-in-law, couldn't bother to be here. "Please, let me know if there's anything I can do for you." I knew I couldn't understand the pain of his illness, but I wanted to support him as best as I could. Once I'd finished my morning chores, I'd take a 40-minute journey to the hospital each day. I'd always driven to work, but now I opted for the bus to maximize my time with father-in-law, even if it meant cutting into my sleep. The bus rides were soothing, providing a brief respite and rejuvenation for the challenging days ahead. As I watched father-in-law's vitality diminish day by day, I devoted my heart and energy to making him comfortable. The medical procedures, including IVs and medication, were necessary, but not simple. Unlike a routine IV for a cold, a catheter had to be placed near his heart via a surgical incision below his collarbone. The sight was distressing, but it was the best we could do for father-in-law, who wasn't a candidate for surgery. "Try this," I offered, handing him a Walkman. Father-in-law loved karaoke and had even won local competitions with his amazing voice. He used to practice daily by singing along to his CD player, but his hospitalization had put an end to that. Wanting him to keep his passion for music alive, I loaded his favorite songs onto the Walkman as a gift. He immediately put on the headphones and pressed play. His face instantly brightened. "I thought I wouldn't be able to listen to music anymore. Thank you so much. Now I have to win another karaoke competition when I get discharged." Seeing father-in-law smile, I felt a bit relieved. Even amidst the unfamiliar hospital atmosphere and daily tough treatments, father-in-law never complained. In fact, he was more worried about me. "Sorry for causing you trouble and expenses. I wish we had traveled more with you and Joseph. I've always wanted to go to that place." Then he took out his mobile phone and showed me a picture. There, countless lavender flowers were blooming in all directions. "Wow, that's beautiful. This place used to be nothing but fields, but after urban development, it turned into such a beautiful spot. This flower is my favorite." Seeing father-in-law's eyes sparkling, I wanted him to get better even more urgently. From then on, I decided to stop by a florist before going to the hospital for father-in-law, who loved flowers. "After you left, I felt lonely, but having flowers around changes things. I found myself talking to the flowers, and the nurses looked at me like I was strange." We had a good laugh over this. 2 weeks later, a feeding tube was attached to father-in-law, who had been eating normally until then. You could visibly see his body turning more yellow. His voice, calling my name, lost its energy. I had to suppress my fear and act strong, which was tough. I hadn't expected him to become bedridden in just 2 weeks after the cancer diagnosis. I was painfully aware of the dreadfulness of the disease. I wanted to say, "Stay strong, Dad," but I knew he would be the most frustrated. He probably didn't want to admit that he was weak, and would be blaming his body for not listening to him. His smile, showing strength at times, was a saving grace for me. I would often excuse myself to the restroom, unable to hold back my tears. I'd wash my face with cold water to cool my flushed face, and then return to his room. Joseph also spent some quality father-son time with him, during his breaks or on his days off. I would enjoy some quiet time alone at a cafe in the hospital during those moments. Father-in-law, who was always kind to me, seemed even happier when talking with his son. So I decided to give them as much time together as possible. An hour later, when I returned to the room, the two were discussing insurance money. "I want my modest insurance money to go to Charlotte, who's taking great care of me," father-in-law said, turning towards me. He had changed the beneficiary to ensure that I would get the money in case something happened to him. That's when the hospital room door flung open with a bang, and sister-in-law stormed in, hurling abuse. "I heard your conversation. Why did you change the beneficiary to her? It used to be me. Change it back immediately, or I'll spread the word that you're the worst father ever." Both Joseph and I couldn't believe the childish words she was saying. However, to our surprise, father-in-law defended sister-in-law. "All right, I got it. If you feel so strongly about it, I'll change the beneficiary back to you. But in return, promise me you'll stop saying hurtful things to Charlotte. She's the wife of my beloved son, Joseph. I won't tolerate her getting hurt, no matter what happens." Perhaps sister-in-law really loved money, to the point of obsessing over it. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that's all she thought about. Once the father-in-law said that, the sister-in-law nodded quietly and left the hospital room. I wanted to follow her out of disbelief, but was stopped by my husband and the father-in-law. So I reluctantly sat down on a chair in the room. However, I couldn't help but notice something off about their behaviors, leaving me with a big question mark floating in my mind. "Hey, why are you guys laughing?" In response to my question, my father-in-law began to explain the truth between chuckles. "That silly girl really believed all my assets were tied up in insurance and went home. Your plan worked well, Dad." Then my father-in-law took out 3 bank cards from a locked drawer and handed them to me. He told me they held a fortune beyond my wildest imagination, which left me speechless with surprise. I knew the father-in-law was wealthy, but a new question popped up in my mind. Why was he only enrolled in a single minimal insurance plan? However, it was a decent plan that would give him $10 million in the event of his death. "All my assets are on these cards. I know I don't have much time left, so I want you two to use it. I'm sorry for all the expenses I put you through, with my hospital bills, flowers, and clothes." No. The money we spent isn't a big deal at all. We can't accept such a huge sum. It would feel like a punishment. Just take it as a token of gratitude for taking care of me. And remember, keep this a secret from her." It seemed that, just like us, the father-in-law didn't think highly of the sister-in-law due to her selfish behavior and lack of family consideration. That's why we had decided to leave her only the bare minimum, if anything happened to him. "Won't you accept my offer?" Faced with their earnest gazes, I found it hard to refuse. I felt guilty, but agreed, nonetheless. 2 weeks later, in accordance with the father-in-law's wish to spend his remaining time in a more home-like environment, receiving palliative care, we moved him to a hospice. We contacted the sister-in-law just in case, but her only response was a curt, "Good for you." It was truly an eye-rolling moment. Despite the sister-in-law's absence, the warm conversation between the 3 of us continued. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble with my secret, but there's one more thing. Did you know my father was Martino Aaron?" "What? You mean the famous singer? I've seen him on the hit nostalgia song show." "Are you serious? That's news to me." This was big news. Even Joseph didn't know. Apparently, it was not public knowledge that the father-in-law was Martino Aaron's son. He was a secret child, and because Martino Aaron was a public figure, it was kept under wraps. However, Martino Aaron apparently doted on the father-in-law behind the scenes and shared his wealth with him before he passed away. "When I'm gone, go here." Saying that, the father-in-law handed us a piece of paper. It only had an address written on it, and we had no idea what it was about. He kept evading our questions for more details. A month later, after living his final days at the hospice, the father-in-law peacefully passed away. "Father-in-law!" I sobbed, calling for him one more time, but there was no answer. Gratitude welled up in me for how he had always treated me like his own daughter, and tears streamed down my face like a waterfall. As we stood by father-in-law's side, leaning on Joseph for support, we watched the doctor and nurses do their work. At the funeral, sister-in-law arrived and began crying loudly. A stark contrast to the attitude she had shown us previously. She was talking to the attendees as though she cared deeply for her father. I wanted to tell everyone that all sister-in-law wanted was money, but doing so wouldn't make father-in-law happy. So I decided to think of sister-in-law as a stranger, which somewhat eased my mind. Of course, after the funeral, sister-in-law didn't interfere with us, and we didn't bother with her either. A week after father-in-law's passing, Joseph and I headed to the location written on the piece of paper father-in-law had given us. The sight that met us was astonishing. "What is this?" Both Joseph's and my voices overlapped. Before us stood an enormous, opulent mansion like nothing we'd ever seen before. Unsure of how to proceed, we decided to walk around the vast gardens first. A woman emerged from the house, and I was so surprised I fell backwards. I'm sorry, I didn't think anyone was here." The woman in front of us wore a kind smile as she invited us into the house. The interior was so extravagant, with marble, diamonds, and ornate decorations. It felt like we had stepped into a dream. The woman guided us to a room with plush chairs where we sat down. As I hurried to understand the reality of the situation, the woman began to speak slowly. "I've been the caretaker of this house. Your father owned this place and used it to entertain his friends from time to time. Every time someone would visit, I would come to assist. However, there's no longer a need for me to come here. Your father's final wish was to hand over the ownership of this house to you, Joseph and Charlotte." After saying this, she handed us a set of keys, a map of the house, and a notebook detailing the location of various valuables. She added, "I'm glad to have met the people your father treasured the most. I wish you happiness." After these words, she left. 2 hours of investigating later, we found a letter from father-in-law in a desk drawer in the study. The letter stated that we could live in or sell the house as we wished. There was no way for us to express our gratitude to father-in-law, who left us not only a fortune, but also this grand mansion, as he was no longer with us. All we could do was continue living in this world, for father-in-law's sake. The following month, we decided to go to a hotel father-in-law had wanted to visit for 15 years. On our way, we played father-in-law's favorite music and spoke to a photo of him. "Father-in-law, we're finally going on a trip together. Let's have a blast today," I said. Suddenly, a leaf fell and stuck to our car window, shaking lightly. It felt like father-in-law had answered us, which made me happy. 3 hours later, we arrived at the historic hotel father-in-law had spoken of, nestled in a quiet spot surrounded by peaceful nature. Photos of several past presidents adorned the walls of the hotel, signifying its recognition and importance. After we were shown to our spacious room, we sat down on the sofa, savoring the welcome drinks and fresh fruits. "It's been a while since we've been able to enjoy a leisurely trip like this." "Yeah, well, Dad's with us today." It had been a long time since Joseph and I had shared a look, and I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. After enjoying the spa and exploring the hotel, it was finally time for the meal we were looking forward to. Since we had ordered meals for 3, the room service staff who brought it to our room was quite surprised. When we explained the situation, they nodded in understanding, with a kind smile. After talking about my father-in-law for a while, they even offered us a bottle of wine on the house. This is delicious. Just what Dad would say, I mused. Being an infrequent drinker, I got tipsy that day, until my memory blurred. However, my husband Joseph, who was good with alcohol, remembered my actions and told me about them the next morning. Last night, you kept stroking Dad's picture and saying, "I love you." I can count on one hand the number of times you've said that to me. I was a bit envious of Dad, he said, laughing. We shared this humorous anecdote as we drove along a different route than the day before. Oh, here! There, lavender was blooming as far as the eye could see. There was no mistake. This was the place my father-in-law had shown us in the photo. Embraced by the gentleness of the lavender color, I felt invigorated, not just entrapped in sadness, but eager to face forward. Dad told me once that Mom used to gaze at the lavender a lot before she passed away. Realizing that my father-in-law had brought us here out of love for his wife touched my heart deeply. Since then, we've started bringing lavender to the grave. The lavender has become a precious flower for our family, warming our hearts and bodies. Once we returned to our normal lives, we started spending our weekends in the luxurious house my father-in-law left us. Thanks to this, every week felt like a vacation. My love for Joseph deepened, and my gratitude to my father-in-law overflowed. I can't count how many times I wet my clothes with tears of joy. Fast forward a month later. It was a weekday around 7 p.m. After Joseph came home and took a bath, I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang. When I checked the monitor, I saw my sister-in-law. She rarely comes to our house. I wanted to pretend we weren't home, but with Joseph's car in the driveway and the lights on, that wasn't possible. As I was hesitating, the impatient sister-in-law began to pound on the door. Worried about the neighbor's eyes, I turned off the stove and hurried to the door. As soon as I opened the door, my sister-in-law started yelling before the door fully closed. "Where the hell are you two on the weekends?" It seems she came to our house over the weekend, but Joseph and I were not there. I couldn't tell her why, so I remained silent, while she glared at me threateningly. All right, come this way." I didn't want her lingering at the front door, so I led her to the living room, intending to let Joseph handle her. Just then, Joseph, fresh from his bath, came to the entrance, and I sighed in relief. "Sis, what brings you here around dinner time?" I appreciated Joseph's forthright approach as I watched the two of them. He led her to the living room, and the conversation continued. "I came to light incense for Dad at the family altar over the weekend, but you two were nowhere to be found." Her self-righteous tone still irked me. Then, out of the blue, Joseph dropped a bombshell. "I actually spend my weekends dating Charlotte, trying to pass on all the love that Dad gave me. Sorry if this doesn't sit well with you. A sister who has to deal with her husband being lovey-dovey with another woman." My voice and sister-in-law's overlapped in shock. "What?" Sister-in-law was visibly shaken by this unexpected revelation. "There's no way! What are you talking about? There's no way he could be interested in any other woman but me!" Immediately after, Joseph took out his mobile phone from his pocket and showed a picture to sister-in-law. Curiosity piqued. I peeked at the photo, and sure enough, it was sister-in-law's husband, arm in arm with another woman. Sister-in-law's fury and sadness reached a peak, and she seemed to stop caring about me and Joseph. As soon as she got the picture forwarded from Joseph, she stormed off. The next day, and the day after, when I asked Joseph, who didn't talk about sister-in-law, what happened to the couple, he said he didn't know because he had blocked sister-in-law's contact. "I don't consider her a sibling anymore. All I want is to live a peaceful daily life with you." Fast forward a month. While out shopping with Joseph as usual, we bumped into a neighbor from where sister-in-law lives. Apparently, the sister-in-law couple was in the midst of divorce discussions, with the husband completely out of love with sister-in-law, and a reluctant sister-in-law still not wanting to split, despite the infidelity. As much as it sounds like a tough situation, I've decided to stop worrying about sister-in-law and just focus on living my own life. As long as I have Joseph, I have nothing to fear. Father-in-law always used to say, the key to happiness is to laugh a lot and sing out loud. I'm going to go back to my old job soon, but I plan on adhering to father-in-law's advice and enjoying life to the fullest, even for father-in-law's sake. Joseph and I both love to sing, and we've promised to participate in a karaoke competition together. Our goal? To make it to the same podium that father-in-law did, to reach the top, as we let our singing voices resonate towards the heavens.
My name is Tina. At 35, I'm single and still living at home. I've been so immersed in my work that I turned 35 before I knew it. And my job became my lover, so to speak. Well, I'm not particularly concerned about it, and without any hobbies, I spend my days leisurely at home. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be this early in the morning? What? Why? What's going on? My mom was surprised at what she saw through the peephole. I became curious, seeing my mom's reaction, so I took a peek too. Whoa. I couldn't help but utter in a low voice at the sight of the visitor on the other side. It was Mia, my young brother Andrew's ex-wife. I have a younger brother named Andrew who's 5 years younger. He also lives at home, but today he had to work just for the morning. He divorced Mia 3 years ago, but why now? The situation was so unexpected that not only me, but also my mom and dad were left wondering. Andrew's not here, what should we do?
Perhaps we should at least let Andrew know.
Right, I'll text him later. We should at least hear what she has to say. If it's awkward for you, I can handle it. When they first got married, my mom had a hard time getting along with Mia. It's not that Mia was ever mean to her, but she has a strong personality when it comes to speaking her mind. And my mom, being the type to always put others first, often found herself overwhelmed. Guess I should handle this. Mom, you might just crumble under the pressure again. I decided to take charge and open the door to greet Mia. Hi, it's been a while.
Hi, it has been a while, Tina.
What brings you here today? Andrew isn't here, he's at work. Oh, in that case, I can talk to you. I have something to share. Her monotone speech was a familiar tune. I led her from the entrance to the living room. My mom and dad were already there in the living room. We all decided to hear what she had to say. So what's up? What did you want to share? What brings you here, Mia? What do you want to discuss? Oh, I'm sorry. I have a favor to ask Andrew. I'd like him to start paying child support. The word child support left my parents and me stunned. Why would she need child support? The puzzling part was that Andrew and Mia had no children together. Huh? Wait, child support? Yes, that's correct. But you and Andrew divorced 3 years ago, right? Yes. Did you two, reconnect during this time? No, we haven't been in touch since the divorce. Then why child support? Well, I was thinking that it might be nice if he could contribute towards the child I'm carrying. We couldn't grasp what Mia was saying. She seemed unfazed by our shocked faces. My parents' faces turned pale, unsure of what was happening. However, I thought it would be best to ask more questions to understand her intentions better. You know, child support is usually paid to your own child, so if the child you're carrying is Andrew's, then it would make sense for him to pay child support, but... Oh, is that so? I'm sorry. I thought I was entitled to it. My current husband told me I could get it. Mia now looked puzzled too. I wondered what her current husband was teaching her, but I patiently explained that there was no need for Andrew to pay child support as it would not even arise. That's odd. There's nothing odd. Wait, did you come here for this? Well, it's for the baby in my womb. Plus, I was hoping that my ex-husband could help out for the child's sake. I had no idea Mia would say something so outrageous. Wouldn't anyone normal think it was strange if they had thought about it? Just as I was thinking that, Mia's phone rang. It was her current husband. She checked the call in the corner of the living room, and it seemed like she was having a dispute. Just as I was wondering if she really believed she could get the money, Dad began to whisper.
Mia's saying some crazy stuff, isn't she?
Hey, what do we do? What if she says she won't go home until she gets the money? Well, that's just not possible, right? Why would she appeal to the family of her ex-husband about this? I couldn't understand it, but it was clear that her current husband was involved in some way. While I was quietly talking to Dad and Mom, Mia finished her call and came back. She was grinning. I'm so sorry. I made a big mistake. Oh, is that so? That's good. Haha, everything's good now then. It wasn't child support, it was alimony from the divorce trial. Now Dad, Mom, and I were all stunned. Even seeing us in the state, Mia just continued to smile cheerfully. Huh? Alimony from the divorce trial? My current husband is the type to take anything he can get. Actually, we only got remarried about a year ago, but before we got married, we talked about my divorce with Andrew. Then he said, "You didn't get the alimony from the divorce trial?" Hold on, so the reason for the divorce is because of Andrew? Well, I suppose so. I don't know it clearly. Just wait, let me check on this. I immediately went from the living room to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, and contacted Andrew. I texted him saying, "Did you cheat?" And he immediately called me. Hey, I didn't cheat. What the heck is going on? You know, the alimony from a divorce trial is usually paid by the party who caused the divorce, right? Huh? Yeah, why? Is Mia saying something ridiculous? Well, yeah, so I'm checking. You didn't divorce her at fault, did you? No, we broke up due to personality differences. She didn't do anything either. I see. Okay, I'm coming home now. I'll be there in about 30 minutes. After wrapping up the call with Andrew, I returned to the living room, where Dad and Mom were giving me the "Did you find out anything?" look. I nodded and took a seat on the couch. So, I just checked with Andrew, and he said when you two divorced, it wasn't his fault. What do you mean, his fault? Well, to put it simply, it's the one who caused the divorce. That includes you too, right, Mia? I guess so. It's not like we did anything particularly bad. We did fight quite a bit, though. Well, if that's all, you're fine. You see, the alimony in a divorce trial is something the guilty party pays to the others, so, Mia, you might have gotten it a bit wrong. What? Don't tell me you don't know this. When a woman gets divorced, she gets the alimony from the divorce trial. At that moment, I was in the presence of this crazy woman who believed that women always get the alimony in a divorce trial, regardless of the reason for the divorce. Her eyes were shining and she had this "I'll take what I can get" attitude. I mean, it's good to be assertive, but I wish she had done some research before coming. That's not a thing in the law. What? Surely I'm not wrong this time. My husband said so. Listen, Mia, your husband doesn't write the law. At that moment, we heard the front door open. Andrew had rushed back from work, his face flushed. Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, it's you, Andrew. I didn't need to see you, you know. I heard from Mom and Sis. You're causing trouble, talking about child support and divorce trial alimonies. So what? It's my right. Huh? Do what you want then. Get out. I'm not paying you a dime and I don't have to. You're responsible for this, Andrew. What? Hey, stop it now. I stepped in to stop the escalating argument. I turned to Mia. I'll talk with Andrew about the details later, but from what I'm hearing now, I don't think there will be any money paid to you. What? Why don't you look it up? Anyway, please just leave for now. When I said that, Mia made a sound of annoyance, slammed the door, and left. About 20 to 30 minutes later, I asked Andrew what prompted him to divorce. With her attitude, the stress was just building up. That's why we divorced. She seemed perfectly fine with it. Maybe it's better to say our values differed. Anyway, I didn't do anything during our marriage to warrant an alimony in the divorce trial. Andrew explained, insisting strongly. However, later that evening, a loud crash suddenly echoed from outside. Startled, I stepped out the front door, only to see a car speeding off. To my horror, a part of our flower bed by the front door had been destroyed. It's her, it has to be Mia. This is the kind of ridiculous behavior that made me despise her. What do you mean? Has something like this happened before? During their marriage, Andrew had his fair share of issues with Mia, beyond just personality clashes. Mia was always stirring up trouble in the neighborhood, which often led to Andrew apologizing on her behalf. She also had a spendthrift nature and thought that being a wife meant constantly looking good, spending their savings on beauty treatments and luxury brands. Andrew had to deal with these recurring issues. It seems like this could fall under alimony during the divorce proceedings, don't you think? I wanted to divorce her immediately back then. I just didn't want to have any prolonged relationship with her. While I understood where he was coming from, I couldn't help but confront Andrew about why he hadn't discussed this with me earlier. Despite feeling sorry and expressing his apologies, I reassured Andrew that he hadn't done anything wrong. I just hope nothing else happens from now on. But my wishes did not come true. The very next day, Mia was back, ringing our doorbell, shouting,
I did find out that I can claim alimony during the divorce, so give it to me now. Don't you feel sorry for the kid?
For 3 days, we responded through the closed door. but Mia wouldn't back down. Then, presumably, her current husband started parking his car in front of our house, destroying something with a hammer he brought from their home, and then leaving. This became a routine, and they harassed us for about a week. I wonder if we should report this to the police. Oh, sorry, I have some work to do. I need to go to my room. I have to admit, this commotion was affecting my work. I work from home doing web-related services. Although my work is primarily remote, the constant doorbell ringing had interrupted an important meeting. Hey, Natalie, I just finished up. Phew. Good work. Seems like you're having a tough time. Have you reported it to the police? My parents don't want to escalate the situation, but I think they're reaching their limits. Natalie's my boss at the company. She's a successful woman, married with a child, a true supermom balancing work and child rearing. Her son recently got married, and she seemed genuinely happy. You should probably report it. If you let it continue, it could become a big problem. You're right, it's been a week, and if this continues, it's going to affect my work. But really, it's a small world, isn't it? Strange people are surprisingly close at hand. Do you have anyone like that too, Natalie? Someone who says, alimony in divorce cases should always go to the woman. Actually, I do. It's my son's wife. Natalie and I had a good laugh at that, but then Natalie's face suddenly turned serious. Wait, you don't think... I was shocked by what Natalie said next, and I proposed a plan to her. I thought it could be the perfect way to put a stop to this nuisance. The next morning, the doorbell rang, and through the peephole, I saw Mia and a man standing there. Enough is enough. My husband says we're going to get your divorce settlement. Do you really want to suffer more? Beside her, a man was grinning ear to ear. Smiling, Mia continued to bang on the door. I confirmed the situation through the peephole and decided to open the door. You just don't know when to quit, do you? Well, of course, I'm all about getting what I can. However, seeing the person standing behind me, the confidence in Mia's face vanished instantly. Oh my god, what on earth are you doing? In a twist of fate, Mia's current husband's mother was Natalie. During our previous online meeting, Natalie had asked, I could be wrong, but is her name Mia? After several facts matched up, Natalie had kindly agreed to confront Mia in person. Fortunately, Natalie lived about a half-hour away by car and had hurried over first thing in the morning. What do you mean, divorce settlement? What are you trying to do here? No, it's not like that. Answer properly. You've been saying strange things for a couple of weeks now, right? Like, did you know that women can get a divorce settlement? I didn't. I missed out. I don't know if I said that. Well, if you consider this situation and what you've been saying, it all adds up. You and him were scheming something together, weren't you? No, it's not like that.
What do you mean it's not like that, and when did you marry this man?
As it turns out, there was another ally. John, the real husband of Mia. And the man who was harassing us along with Mia was none other than...
You were conspiring with Alec? What a rotten move you made, Mia.
No, it's not what you think, John. He's just a friend.
We've already found out you and him have been in a relationship for a year now, right? You're finished. I was planning to start divorce discussions soon.
What? Divorce? No, you're kidding. No, I just came to get some money. He's just a friend. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to fund my dates. Right, John? Right? You'll forgive me, right? I told you the truth, right? John stared at Mia as if she were trash. The unbelievable scene kept unfolding, as Natalie, Dad, Mom, Andrew, and myself could only stare wide-eyed.
Go to hell, I'm not gonna reconcile with trash like you.
No, I'm not getting a divorce. I said I'm not. Alec, disappointed by Mia's behavior, tried to flee, mumbling,
Well, I'm leaving.
Oh, there they are. A police car, sirens whirring, had pulled up in front of our house. Andrew had called the police as soon as the commotion started at our doorstep.
You think you can escape? You're as guilty as she is. No, please, I was just fooling around.
Fooling around by smashing our flower bed with a hammer. And what about the dents in our walls? At this, Alec started to panic.
Well, where's the proof? Show me. If you can, bring it on.
No problem. I'll submit the dashcam footage.
Huh? Dashcam?
My car is equipped with a dashcam that continues to record even when parked. Coincidentally, the dashcam had captured the entire misdeed.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. And Mia, you're just as guilty. What? I had nothing to do with it. You were creating a ruckus too, weren't you?
We'll be hearing the full story down at the station.
No. John, help me.
Please have mercy.
Without further ado, the two were hauled off by the police. They were given a good grilling at the station, released for a time, but ultimately sentenced to probation. Furthermore, John filed for divorce and demanded a hefty alimony. Upon hearing that refusal would mean another lawsuit, they reluctantly agreed to pay in installments, $3 million from Alec and $2 million from Mia. As it turns out, they were both jobless, and now they're juggling part-time jobs to make ends meet, without reconciling. And just like that, they stopped visiting, and peace returned to our home. Andrew, regretting his poor luck with women for the past 3 years, has become good friends with John because of this whole incident. They plan on going to a local matchmaking party together next time. So here's hoping they both find someone special.
I don't remember inviting you. Ah, she must be talking about her bragging party today, showing off her fancy high-rise apartment to everyone. Well, I don't remember being invited either, and I certainly had no desire to go. But she continued to confront me. Did you come for a tour or something? You, who can only afford such cheap and unimpressive clothes for your own daughter? She smirked, looking down on me. Hearing this, I decided to fight back. Is there a reason I shouldn't be here? Yes, this is no place for someone as poor as you. With one sentence, I stopped Jasmine in her tracks. As my words sunk in, her face turned ashen, then quickly flushed with anger. She couldn't believe what I had said and called me a lying bastard, which was rather amusing. My name is Alan, and I'm a homemaker. I did want to work, but at my husband's request, I decided to focus on our home. But every day is filled with joy as I work hard for my family. My loving husband, our dear daughter, and I lead a life full of love and dedication. This story took place a few years after my daughter was born. She had grown up, and it was time for her to attend preschool. Among several options, my husband and I chose the preschool where we believed our daughter could grow freely. At first, she was a little nervous, but she soon made many friends and enjoyed her days at preschool. I also made new friends, other moms, thanks to our children's friendships. But not all of these connections were pleasant. While most of them were kind, there were a few who always tried to one-up everyone else. The leader of this pack was Jasmine. According to other parents, Jasmine was a homemaker too, but her husband worked at a famous company. She seemed to brag a lot about being the wife of an employee at such a notable firm. Her stories were always about luxurious hotels, trips abroad, or buying designer items. Just recently, I had to listen to her boast about her lunch at a renowned chef's restaurant. While Jasmine seemed to have a few friends among the moms, I didn't want much to do with her. But it seems like we can't always choose who we encounter. On holiday, I took my daughter to the park and unexpectedly ran into Jasmine. "Oh, hello there," she approached me. Jasmine was dressed in an elegant, tight dress with delicate, strappy mules. Everything about her screamed expensive. It was all so outstandingly flashy and beautiful. Not exactly the outfit one would expect for a park outing with a child. "Hello," I managed to respond, doing my best to hide my discomfort. She then erased her expression and stared at me. I was puzzled, wondering if I'd done something wrong. But then I realized her gaze was focused on my daughter standing next to me. Upon seeing my daughter, Jasmine chuckled in a derisive manner, looking at me with a smirk, and then she turns to me with the smirk. "Hey, where do you buy your daughter's clothes?" I wonder why she's asking. Her next line answers my question quickly. "Those clothes look quite cheap. Don't you feel bad for your daughter?" Indeed, my daughter was wearing a simple t-shirt and skinny jeans that you could find anywhere. But it's not ragged, and I never really paid it any mind, so I just chuckled and let it slide. It seems like any response I give would just invite a counter-argument, so saying anything now would only lead to a headache. Better to avoid unnecessary confrontation. Seeing my forced smile, Jasmine apparently assumed she'd hit a nerve. With a triumphant look, she said, "If you can't afford anything better, let me know. I can give you some of my kids' old clothes. They're secondhand, though. If you want, I can even give you some of my clothes." I had no particular desire to accept her offer, so I responded vaguely with, "Sure, I'll keep that in mind if I ever need to." By this time, our kids were engrossed in different play equipment, so I was eager to end the conversation. My daughter seems to want to play somewhere else, so I have to go, I told her. Well, if you ever need help with clothes, don't hesitate to tell me. She waved flamboyantly, and we parted ways. Seeing my daughter's cheerful smile ahead of me, my irritation subsided. One day I heard Jasmine was inviting some close mom friends over to a party at her house. Apparently, she'd bought a newly built high-rise apartment with her husband's money. She probably planned to show off the apartment during her home party. I was not invited, but I had no interest in a party thrown by Jasmine and figured it would just be an opportunity for her to boast, so I didn't care. Rumor has it that there was a dress code for the dinner party. Apparently, the guests were instructed to wear ostentatious, brightly colored, and beautiful dresses, which aren't usually required at a casual home party. I also heard that moms from relatively affluent families were invited. Sure enough, looking at the guest list, there were moms with husbands working at global companies or whose families owned large pieces of land. The dress code was probably there to filter the guests. Realizing again that Jasmine judges people by their wealth, I was fed up just hearing about it. I genuinely considered how to avoid her as much as possible in the future. But as long as our kids were at the same preschool, that seemed unlikely. I hoped we'd never meet again privately, but after the recent incident at the park, I realized that we live in the same area and that it would be difficult. I wished that this problem would disappear completely someday. I even wished on a star. On another day, I found myself heading towards a high-rise apartment. I opened the automatic lock at the entrance, walked inside the building, and looked around the floor. Just then, a door creaked open. Surprisingly, the person who appeared was the haughty guardian, Jasmine. I was taken aback and stood frozen for a moment, but soon I regained my composure. Well, hello there. No matter how much I disliked her, I figured I should at least say hello. However, Jasmine didn't respond, instead staring at me with wide eyes. We exchanged glances for a while until Jasmine furrowed her brows, a clear sign of her unhidden anger, and addressed me. I don't remember inviting you. Ah, she's referring to today's party. I don't recall being invited either, nor did I want to attend. Well, I wasn't invited, I responded matter-of-factly. Apparently, she didn't appreciate my response. Jasmine continued to confront me. Why are you here if you weren't invited? Why am I here, you ask? Did you come here to tour this high-rise apartment, even though you can only afford to dress your daughter in such drab and lowly clothing? She snickered at me with disdain. Hearing that, I thought, now is the perfect moment to counter Jasmine. I carefully chose my words to throw at her. Do you think I shouldn't be here? Yes, this is not a place for someone like you. Why is that? Because for someone poor like you, well, this is actually my home. As my words overlapped with Jasmine's, her movements came to a complete halt. Her face turned pale when she realized what I had said. She probably hadn't expected that response at all. Her eyes were black and white, as if she didn't understand. She blinked in disbelief, trying to digest the situation. Instantly, Jasmine's face turned red with anger. What do you mean? Explain yourself. Let me clarify for you then. Actually, my husband is the president of several companies. They may not be famous companies, but thanks to the income generated from these businesses, we earn significantly more than the average person. He owns several properties across Japan, and the new high-rise apartment building where we are now is built on one of his properties. So this apartment building is owned by my husband, which means it's our home. I regularly visit this high-rise apartment because my husband entrusted its management to me. He understood that I wanted to work, so he gave me this job. I explained the situation to her in a nutshell. Upon hearing this, Jasmine raised her eyebrows and shouted, What? I didn't know about this. When I signed the contract for the apartment, I didn't meet you. I met a man who was the manager. Oh, that must have been my husband. He took over for me this time for the key handover, so I didn't get a chance to meet you. You can tell as many lies as you want. With that parting shot, she went back into her home. To my surprise, Jasmine returned to the entrance. She seemed to have gathered an assortment of things from her home, children's toys, stuffed animals, stationery, clothes, all jumbled up in her arms. You're the one dressing your kid in such pitiful clothes. Stop lying. With that, Jasmine started throwing the items she was holding at me. There's no way you earn more than me. Jasmine's sudden outburst caught me by surprise, but her rage seemed to be running unchecked. Before I had a chance to react, the object she'd thrown whizzed past me. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed hollowly, a reminder of her uncontrolled anger. I decided then that it was high time to set the record straight about the park incident as well. About my daughter's clothes that day. What? Do you remember the day we were at the park? What does that have to do with anything? My daughter loves playing in the sand. I figured she'd get dirty anyway, so I dressed her in clothes that could handle a little grime. That's a lie. It's the truth. Here, look. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo from my album. Jasmine froze as she looked at the picture. In it, our family of 3 was all smiles, with my daughter wearing a recognizable children's brand outfit in the center. Jasmine's eyes widened even further in surprise as she took it in. You only dressed her nicely that one time, didn't you? She screeched, clinging to her last shred of denial. That's not true. Here, look at all these, I countered, showing her multiple photos. Sure enough, my daughter was seen wearing nice clothes in beautiful settings and more casual wear where it was likely she'd get dirty. At the sight of this, Jasmine clenched her fists and trembled, seemingly out of retorts. What? What? I replied, having not heard her clearly. This seemed to further upset Jasmine. What? Are you trying to say that being wealthy makes you superior? She yelled, pushing me hard on the shoulders. That was apparently the last straw. The other mothers who'd been keeping a watchful eye on the situation came outside and tried to calm Jasmine down. Jasmine kept shouting, She lied to me! There's no way she lives in this luxury apartment! She's just lying to be more popular than me! Ignoring the calming words of her friends, she continued to yell. After a while, perhaps exhausted from the constant shouting, Jasmine finally quieted down, catching her breath in heavy gasps. It was quite a sight. Her hair disheveled, one slipper missing, and all around her, the aftermath of her tantrum. The hallway was littered with the objects she had thrown. Toys were broken from the impact, stuffed animals lay lifeless. She must have been grabbing anything she could get her hands on, meaning the inside of the house must be a mess too. From the inside of the house, I could see our children peeking out, worried. Are you satisfied now? I asked, flashing my best faux smile at Jasmine, who seemed unable to retort. Her face twisted amusingly at the sight. I hope you enjoy the luxury apartment brag party, I said, gliding past her, and please do clean up the mess that you made. From behind me, I heard her shout, Liar! It was just bravado, but it did give me a chuckle. As a result of this incident, Jasmine found herself distanced from the other close-knit mothers she knew. It seemed that her usually high-handed behavior had been a point of contention for some time. She even had the gall to make the other mothers clean up her mess. Her outrageous tantrum this time around was the last straw, painting her as an unstable individual in their eyes. The friends Jasmine thought she had amongst the mothers distanced themselves from her, and she found herself isolated in the preschool community. It was a pitiful sight to behold. To add insult to injury, rumors began to circulate that Jasmine had gotten a divorce. It was said that she was living lavishly off her husband's money, jet-setting on international trips and splurging on designer brands. This issue was the straw that broke the camel's back, as it was said that her spouse's affection and interest in her had already been waning. The incident where Jasmine threw objects at me and refused to clean up her mess was the final blow that pushed her husband over the edge. Jasmine reportedly pleaded, Please, don't leave me. But her husband responded, I never thought you would stoop this low. I can't stay with you anymore. I'm going to take custody of our child. And just like that, Jasmine was left all alone. Their marriage had been a secret affair where the two had eloped to a distant land. Hence, Jasmine had no one around her to lend a helping hand. Jobless Jasmine, having lost her means of living, was in a tough spot. Word of her fall from grace spread quickly through the grapevine, and finding employment was a struggle. Eventually, Jasmine managed to find work as a part-timer in a supermarket, and was said to be living in a run-down 50-year-old apartment with doors that creaked and groaned. It was reported that she was barely scraping by. After all that's happened, I sincerely hope Jasmine has learned her lesson and will no longer judge people based on their wealth.
Mom wants us to come home for the New Year holiday.
My husband suddenly told me during our first holiday season as a married couple. I told him I wanted to visit my own family too, but he flatly refused. To make things worse, his mother started berating me, saying I lacked awareness as a wife and calling me a shoddy daughter-in-law. No matter how much I tried to negotiate, my husband always sided with his mother. I had had enough. I couldn't play this family game anymore. I decided to take measures that would permanently sever ties with my in-laws. My name is Abby, and I'm 28 years old. I married Malcolm, my boyfriend of 2 years. Our newlywed life was going smoothly. Both of us work full-time, so neither of us bear the burden of household chores alone. Being a woman, I didn't want all the housework pushed onto me, so I made sure my husband did his share. My job and personal life were fulfilling. I even started thinking about having a child once things settled down a bit. 1 month after we got married, I was suddenly summoned to my in-laws' home. Summoned might not be the right word, though. At that time, I simply thought I was invited to visit their home. I had visited my in-laws before we got married, but I was too nervous to engage in any meaningful conversation. I thought that this could be a good opportunity to bond with my mother-in-law. With such a light feeling, I headed to my mother-in-law's house. However, the reason for the summoning was nothing short of outrageous. After arriving at the family's house, we are led into the living room. As soon as my husband and I sat down on the sofa in their living room, my mother-in-law's voice rang out.
Excuse me, Abby. Why are you sitting there so leisurely? Please make me some tea.
I'm sorry. Caught off guard, I apologized. I was under the impression that I would be treated as a guest at my in-laws' home. I wasn't expecting anything lavish, but I certainly didn't expect to be treated like a servant.
Abby, you're taking too long to steep the tea. Hey, it's common sense to warm up the cup first.
My mother-in-law was watching me prepare the tea, constantly sighing. My father-in-law and husband said nothing. I thought if she had so many complaints, why didn't she just make the tea herself? I admit my tea-making skills were lacking, but I was also annoyed by her imposing her own standards on me. Then, on another day, I was about to clean our house when my mother-in-law suddenly called me. I hurried over to my in-laws' house with my husband, only to find my mother-in-law already angry.
Why didn't you bring any gifts? Isn't it common to bring a gift when visiting your in-laws?
She reprimanded me without preamble. I didn't have any plans to go out today, and I only decided to come here at the last minute, so...
I'm not asking for excuses. These days, daughters-in-law quickly show disrespect to their mothers-in-law, don't they? I really got stuck with a shoddy daughter-in-law.
I'm sorry. In the midst of all this, neither my husband nor my father-in-law offered me any support. I didn't necessarily want them to defend me. I just wanted someone to stop my mother-in-law's unreasonable tirade. After my mother-in-law's lecture, I whispered to my husband, "Hey, Malcolm, can you say something to your mom? It was a last-minute decision to come today, so there was no way I could have prepared a gift." But my husband just sighed, in an annoyed manner.
Don't you think you should always have some gifts ready, just in case you have to visit? I agree with my mom on this.
The response I got from my husband were irrational words blaming me. Is he kidding me? Why is he taking my mother-in-law's side too? Not only has my impression of my husband decreased, but within a few days, I've developed an aversion towards my mother-in-law. After that, I was regularly called in and had the ways of the in-laws imposed on me. When you visit your in-laws, the daughter-in-law takes care of all the chores. The daughter-in-law prioritizes her husband and parents-in-law. The New Year's vacation is always spent at the in-laws' house and so on. Honestly, isn't their thinking way too outdated? Even I had grown fearful of visiting my husband's family. On our first New Year's holiday after marriage, my husband told me,
"We're expected to return for the New Year's holiday."
"What? Hold on. When will I be able to visit my family?"
It might be tough this time. We can decide again after the new year.
What's with that? We promised to visit both families equally, didn't we? I was infuriated by my husband's irresponsibility. He responded with an air of annoyance.
It can't be helped now, right? No point in bringing that up.
Why would he sigh at a time like this? We had clearly agreed on this before we got married. That's right. Both my husband and I were the type to want to visit our families regularly. That's why we rented an apartment halfway between both our parents' homes and decided to visit them equally. But when we opened the lid, we had already visited the in-laws 6 times, and I had only been able to return to my family once. According to my husband, this time we were to stay at his parents' house from the end of work until work resumes. There's no way I can accept such an absurd proposal, I demanded of my husband. At least before work starts again, I want to visit my family. When my husband told me to
Ask Mom.
I called my mother-in-law. The first thing my mother-in-law said when she answered the phone was,
"Abby, you're in charge of the special New Year's dinner, okay?"
I understand, but I will definitely visit my family before work starts, so please be prepared for that. When I clearly told her that, my mother-in-law raised her voice in surprise.
"What's with that? Prioritizing your own family? You like the consciousness of a daughter-in-law."
I was lectured for an hour over the phone and ended up completely exhausted. When I complained about it to my husband, he casually replied,
"Mom just wants you to be a good wife, Abby. She often says, I want her to be a wife fit for our family."
His dull nature was also draining me. In the end, we ended up spending the entire New Year's holiday at my in-laws' place. "It's your first New Year's since you got married, so prioritize them." That's what my mother said, so I reluctantly complied. During our stay at the in-laws, I worked like a maid. From preparing meals to cleaning the whole house, doing the laundry, taking out the trash. I ended up having to do everything by myself. If I asked my husband for help, I was scolded.
"Abby, this is the wife's job, isn't it? Malcolm is tired from his usual work, so it's only natural that he should rest during the New Year's holiday, right? You're really inconsiderate."
I work full-time too, you know. Thanks to you, I haven't been able to rest at all during the New Year's holiday, you know? Though I retorted in my heart, I didn't want to make a fuss at the beginning of the new year. It's the first year of our marriage. I forced myself to accept it and somehow made it through the holiday at the in-laws' house. I hadn't seen my family since the start of the new year. My husband offhandedly told me,
"I'm tired. I'll stay home."
So I ended up going to visit my family alone. That's probably when my trust in him began to wane. Of course, I had complaints about my mother-in-law and my husband's family too. But more than that, I was fed up with my husband, who wouldn't take me seriously when I tried to talk to him. Even after the new year, the harassment from my mother-in-law didn't stop. When I began refusing to visit her home, she started calling every day. When I woke up in the morning, there would already be about 10 missed calls. I thought something had happened, so I called back, only to have my mother-in-law yelling at me.
"So you finally woke up. You lack a sense of responsibility as a wife. Get up at 5 a.m. every day and make a nutritious meal for Malcolm."
Even if I got home a little late from work, she would scold me terribly.
"I heard from Malcolm. It's outrageous for a woman to stay late at work. A wife who doesn't come home before her husband is the worst. Prioritize your home, you heartless girl."
I actually earn more than your son. In fact, I contribute more to our living expenses. I almost pointed this out many times, but I somehow held it in and just brushed it off with a, yeah. Gradually, I stopped answering calls from my mother-in-law and deleted her voicemails without listening to them. This went on for about a year, and then the hellish season came around again. Sure enough, my husband was pestering me saying,
Mom says you should come home for the New Year's holiday.
This time, I firmly told my husband, I am not going this year. I can't bear it anymore. I'm not a housekeeper. My husband, annoyed by my words, grumbled at me.
Listen, Abby, don't upset my mom. You married me, so at least be considerate of my family.
Excuse me? You never even properly show your face to my family. Besides, I've been working really hard to build a good relationship with your mother.
That's why my mom is always mad, right? You need to try harder.
Try harder? As if I'm the only one to blame? Seething with rage, my husband dropped the final bomb.
Let me tell you something, Abby. Mom is mad because you're a failure. You get that?
At that moment, the dam I had barely been holding back finally burst. A failure? It's my fault? I've been putting his family first for his sake and putting up with it all this time? Taking a deep breath, I looked my husband in the eye. I'm cutting ties with your family. I'm never seeing your father and mother again. My husband looked surprised for a moment, but he must have realized that anything he said now would be futile. Surprisingly, he gave in quite easily.
All right, I get it. Totally fine. I'll go home alone for the holidays.
Our relationship got a bit strained after that. We talked less at home, but frankly, I didn't care. I was able to spend the New Year's holiday with my family for the first time in a while. That fact alone made me extremely happy. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mom asked worryingly, Abby, is everything okay with Malcolm's family? I can't help but worry. I'm fine, Mom. I made it clear to him that I won't be involved anymore. Is that so? I hope everything's all right. My mom still looked a bit uneasy. She's worried in her own way about my relationship with my husband's family. After enjoying my childhood home after so long and leaving the housework to Mom, I was relaxing when suddenly the doorbell rang. Coming! I quickly headed for the door, only to find my husband standing there. What? I was taken aback, not expecting this at all. He looked worn out. I invited him in, but he didn't say a word. Losing patience, I demanded an explanation. What's up? Weren't you supposed to be going home to your folks today, Malcolm? At that, my husband slowly opened his mouth.
Mom said to bring Abby.
What? Again? How relentless can my mother-in-law be? Though outraged, I held my ground. Didn't I tell you I'm not going to your parents' house again? When I said I was cutting ties with them, you agreed, right, Malcolm?
Yeah, but Mom's angry. She says it's inconceivable for a daughter-in-law not to visit her in-laws.
I don't care. I can't handle your mother's harassment anymore. And I'm fed up with your father's indifference too, so I don't intend to see them ever again. Upon hearing this, my husband pleaded.
That's a problem. Like Mom said, Abby, you married into this family. Please consider my position.
Your position? How ridiculous. What era are you living in? I vented my anger at him. Enough is enough. I didn't get married to become your parents' housekeeper. I don't want anything to do with in-laws who harass me and a husband who doesn't stand up for me. I had never spoken so strongly. My husband flinched. But it wasn't enough. Not compared to the humiliation I'd endured all this while. If you continue to side with your mother, I'll divorce you.
Divorce? You're joking, right?
I'm serious. Being mistreated just because I'm your wife? Living with a husband who won't help me and simply does what his mother says? I'll never be happy. I'd be far better off single. When he realized that I was seriously considering divorce, his face turned pale. Just then, his phone rang. Looking at the screen, he appeared startled. I knew right away it was his mother calling.
Hello?
My husband responded with a pitiful voice. I could hear his mother squawking loudly over the phone, even from where I was standing. Losing patience with my husband's wavering, I snatched the phone from him. Hello, mother-in-law, it's me. No matter how much you try to use my husband, I won't be coming over anymore. What? You're my daughter-in-law, aren't you? I won't accept that. My mother-in-law fired back without missing a beat. But I retorted with twice the power. Daughter-in-law? Daughter-in-law? Are you living in the Stone Age? It's the 21st century.
What an insolent bride! You can at least show up at the house for special occasions.
No way. My husband is free to go there, but whether it's a special occasion or not, I absolutely will not go. If you have anything more to say, I'll divorce Malcolm.
Divorce? Are you planning to disgrace Malcolm?
Then let's divorce once and remarry under my surname. That's fine, right?
That's ridiculous. I won't allow that.
Do as you please. Regardless of what you say, I have no intention of dealing with you guys ever again. Goodbye. With that, I spat out and hung up the phone. I then turned to face my husband. That's the deal. Like I said before, if you take your mother's side, we'll get a divorce. If you can understand my point of view and treat me as an equal, I'll let this slide.
I understand. I choose you, Abby.
My husband hung his head for a while, but ultimately made the decision to give our relationship another shot. Since then, I stopped visiting my in-laws, and the mother-in-law stopped contacting us as well. Perhaps reflecting on his past behavior, my husband now regularly visits my parents. Of course, my parents don't treat him like a workhorse. They adore him as if he were their own son. I'm sure we'll face many obstacles in the future. Even so, I want to team up with my husband who chose me and overcome each day together.
My name is Chloe and I'm 44 years old. I'm about to share a pivotal, rather dramatic moment in my life, and I'd like you to listen in. When I was 25, I met and married Ethan, a hardworking businessman, thanks to a mutual acquaintance. I'd always hoped to become a full-time homemaker after our marriage, but given the economic downturn, that plan didn't pan out. Instead, I continued to work at the salon where I'd been employed for a while, leveraging maternity and postpartum leaves to welcome and nurture our daughter, Isabella. Up until this point, we had an ordinary family life, like everyone else. In retrospect, as a first-time mom, there were days that felt exhausting. Yet, each day brought along a new joy. Isabella was so adorable, and Ethan was incredibly sweet. Our family didn't experience the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts. On the contrary, my in-laws showered Isabella with so much love and even helped us with her upbringing. So, I don't recall ever feeling overwhelmed. Surrounded by kind people, I thought we were living a calm and peaceful life. By the time Isabella turned 10, Ethan and I had become a pretty solid, well-settled couple. The lovey-dovey phase was fading, but that didn't worry me. Let's admit it, I saw it as natural evolution of our relationship, something every couple goes through. Ethan, ever the kind-hearted man, would pick me up from work whenever our schedules aligned. So, the thought of our love cooling off never crossed my mind. There was no room for anxiety, until one unexpected day. Ethan was off work, so I borrowed our car for a shopping run. As I slid into the driver's seat and adjusted the side mirror to suit my view, something glittery at my feet caught my attention. Picking it up, I realized it was a dangly earring. Obviously, designed for women. For the record, I don't wear earrings. I can't because I have allergies. Wait, if this isn't mine, Whose is it? My mind was instantly flooded with question marks. And the most direct answer it could muster was infidelity. No. Cheaters don't get caught this easily, right? Still, I decided to confront Ethan nonchalantly, showing him the earring I'd found in the car. He looked startled for a moment. Then he quickly recovered, saying, oh yes. I gave one of my colleagues a ride the other day. It must be hers. What's the reaction now? But did he just almost say mine? No way, right? I was unsure whether to press further. I had a nagging feeling of unease, but part of me wanted to erase my unwelcome thoughts. Most importantly, Isabella was with us. I didn't want to risk a confrontation that could potentially confirm Ethan's infidelity and hurt our daughter. So, I chose to let it slide for the time being. A few days later, on a particularly stormy night, Ethan had to attend a business dinner. He called to let me know he probably wouldn't make it home. In this weather, are you sure you'll be okay? Don't catch a cold. I couldn't help but express my concern. Ethan is prone to catching colds, so I knew it must be an important event to drag him out on a night like this. Yeah, I'll be fine. Thanks. But just as he finished, a shrill, sweet voice echoed from the other end of the phone. Ethan, are you still on the phone? I couldn't help but ask again. Huh? No, I told you, I'm on a call. Ethan tries to justify himself while stopping me. What just happened there? You got called by your first name? Well, it's one of our clients. You know how bosses love to call you by your first name. You know what I mean? That sounds like an excuse to me. I do have a manager at another store who calls out to me, "Hey Chloe." I guess there are a good number of bosses who prefer to use first names regardless of gender. But there's something off about the tone of his voice that makes me suspicious. I mutter, without realizing. Perhaps, scared of being questioned further, Ethan quickly hangs up the call. I'm off for an entertaining night with clients, gotta go. The last time, I found a piece of jewelry that wasn't mine. This time, the smell of infidelity seems to be getting stronger. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but without any solid evidence, I don't truly feel like he's cheating on me. All I feel is a formless, nagging doubt growing within me. The next morning, Ethan returns home and starts talking about his difficult night, even though I didn't ask. But if you listen closely, he keeps repeating words like forceful, already settled, and wanted to go home early. The common theme seems to be that he didn't really want to go in the first place. That just makes it all the more suspicious. So, you're not cheating on me, right? Just kidding. I was about to follow up with a laugh and say, just kidding, of course you're not. But then I saw Ethan's face and fell silent. He was pale as a ghost. I'd never seen anyone turn that pale before. So that's what it looks like when someone turns blue, I thought to myself. No, of course not. There's no way I would ever do something like that. His words don't match the color of his face. While his expressions might be able to lie, his complexion doesn't. Now, he's a prime suspect. What an awful joke I've made. I screwed up. Trying to hide the tears welling up in my eyes, I turned my back on Ethan. Come on, go take a bath. It's your day off. You should take it easy. I left the room with my best attempt at a cheery voice. Then I cried alone. His bad lying made the whole thing seem unreal until now. I kept thinking, there's no concrete evidence anyway, but the suspicion is very real. There's still no evidence, nothing has really changed, but his reaction, there's no mistaking it. You don't even need intuition to see it. What am I supposed to do from here? Should I find evidence and file for divorce? What about our daughter, Isabella? Can I raise her alone? I still love Ethan after everything. I couldn't make up my mind, so I decided to think more about what I really want. And so, with no answer in sight, Isabella started her summer break. I thought it would be just like any other summer, but it wasn't. Ethan kept insisting on taking Isabella to his parents' house. He usually doesn't want to go because it's a hassle, and since it's just in the next town, we can go anytime. And during summer break, I'm usually busy with work. When we visit his parents, we usually stay for a few days. Even though they are close by, the time Isabella can spend with her grandparents is limited. But I can't take consecutive days off during this period. Does he know that and still ask anyway? As I ponder it, I remembered that this summer was different from all the rest. Right, Ethan is having an affair. Could he possibly be using the trip home as an excuse to do something? If I'm lucky, could I obtain evidence of his affair? With these thoughts in mind, and feeling that I couldn't decide my course of action without proof, I allowed Isabella and Ethan to make the trip home together. The day they left, Ethan, grinning more than usual, said, "We're off," as he drove Isabella to his parents' house. That's suspicious. He usually seems so much more bothered. But with no idea of what might actually happen, and the distance to his parents' house being a significant obstacle, obtaining evidence wasn't going to be easy. After sending them off, I rummaged around the house but found nothing. I knew it wouldn't be that simple. As I was exchanging voice messages with Isabella via the GPS, I was about to give up on finding any proof. The next day, after searching all night for evidence and not finding any, I went to work with a tired face from the lack of sleep. Everyone was worried about me, but I brushed them off with a laugh, saying, "The heat kept me awake." As I exchanged messages with Isabella during my work breaks, I was expecting another fruitless day. But then I noticed something odd. Although Isabella was supposed to be at her in-laws, the GPS was acting strangely. It was moving. Sure, she might go somewhere, but the GPS showed Isabella heading towards a street lined with pubs. I had a bad feeling about this. In a rush, I told my manager, "I'm not feeling well," and decided to leave work early. While I was doing that, the GPS stopped at a shop in the city. The name of the shop was Amore Club, Love and Me. This is a romantic hotel. Isabella brought the GPS to a hotel? What? I was confused. What if she was involved in some kind of trouble? Isabella hadn't responded to the messages I had sent her yet, so in a panic, I called Ethan's parents' house. "Hello, I'm sorry for the sudden call. Is Isabella there?" I didn't know if Ethan's mother, father, or even Ethan himself had answered the phone. "Chloe, Isabella just left with my son to go play. What's the matter? You sound so panicked." The person on the other end was Ethan's father. Hearing that Ethan and Isabella had left together, I felt a wave of relief. I'm glad she's safe. But as soon as the relief washed over me, a question popped up in my mind. Why is Ethan at a hotel with Isabella? Could this be the evidence I've been looking for? Just as I was thinking this, I got a reply from Isabella on the GPS. I told Ethan's father, "Can I call you back later?" and abruptly ended the call. Then I quickly responded to Isabella. "What are you doing now?" "I'm waiting in the car for Dad." I checked the GPS location again in case I was mistaken. It's still the hotel. No matter how many times I look, it's the hotel. Did he just abandon Isabella in the parking lot of the hotel? I felt myself losing control. More than having definite proof of the affair, the fact that he brought Isabella to such a place was unbearable. Ethan's father had said that Ethan took Isabella out saying he was going to have some fun. So he was using Isabella as a cover-up. I can't believe how foolish he's been. This definitely calls for, no, needs a consequence. I messaged Isabella. Mommy is coming to join you there. Then I called my father-in-law back and told him everything. He adores Isabella and was furious. Just hearing Ethan seems to be at the hotel with Isabella, he blurted out, "What on earth is he doing?" Thinking about her father and his mistress at a hotel. If Isabella understood what that meant, she'd definitely be upset. Before Isabella realized anything, my in-laws and I decided to remove her from the situation. Luckily, the hotel was near a station, so I hopped on the train while my in-laws drove there. As we entered the hotel's parking lot, sure enough, our car was parked. Isabella, who knew we were coming, was innocently waving from inside the car. I quickly unlocked the car with my spare key and hugged Isabella. "I'm sorry for leaving you alone here." "But I'm not alone. Daddy's just late," Isabella pouted. Promising a fun day out and then making her wait in the parking lot wasn't right. It was awful. Mommy will make sure he pays for it. I didn't say it out loud, but I promised Isabella. For now, I convinced Isabella to go home with my in-laws. I wanted to get her away from there as soon as possible, so the teamwork with my in-laws was appreciated. Then I climbed into the driver's seat of Ethan's car and waited. Of course, just waiting wasn't fun at all. I figured they were in the middle of it, so I called Ethan on purpose to disturb them. "Hello, is that you?" I intentionally used a laid-back tone to gauge Ethan's situation. "Hey, I'm driving right now. Don't call me out of the blue. Call me later." "Oh, your car's right here? What exactly are you driving, I wonder?" I couldn't help but chuckle. "Oh, okay, gotcha. Your parents will be there to pick her up soon. Just letting you know." "What?" Of course, it was a lie, because my in-laws had just left. Knowing he was having fun in the hotel room made me so mad. I thought this was the best way to wrap it up quickly. I hung up, and not long after, Ethan rushed out to the parking lot, with a woman trailing behind him, her hair all messed up. They seemed to be in a bit of squabble. Well, that makes sense. He probably intended to be in the room for at least 3 hours. My call likely forced him to interrupt his rendezvous, and he had to rush out of the room. Or rather, he absolutely had to. As Ethan approached the car, his shirt buttons were haphazardly fastened. Was he planning to meet my in-laws looking like that? Isabella would surely be surprised. The woman seemed furious, and I started to think that this might be the end of their affair. Moreover, I could be imagining it. But the woman looked a bit like me from the past. Well, interesting choice for an affair, a woman of a similar type. The whole situation was starting to amuse me, so I waited in the car, grinning as I met Ethan's eyes. When Ethan noticed me, he was taken aback for a moment. Then, his mouth began to open and close like a goldfish out of water. "I'm here to pick you up, dear," I called, swinging the car door open with a smile. Ethan stared at me in surprise, raising his hand as if on autopilot. I had to chuckle. It was just like a dog sitting or drooling at the sight of a treat. Pavlov's dog, classic conditioned response. The woman next to him turned from furious red to terrified pale and scurried off. Poor thing, left all alone, I thought. Why, huh? What? Wait! Ethan stammered, pointing at me and repeating his surprise. I didn't respond, simply returning his shock with a smile. He remained frozen even when I started the car. No objections then. "Well, you can walk home then, I'm going ahead," I declared and drove off. A guy who abandons Isabella in the parking lot deserves the same. Serves you right. Think about what you've done. I saw Ethan chasing the car in the rearview mirror, but I didn't slow down. His lover seemed to have left already, leaving no one to rescue him. Now, I guess I'll just wait for you back at home. Driving back to my in-laws, the whole situation seemed amusing. My mother-in-law was playing with Isabella when I arrived. My father-in-law looked positively livid, veins popping on his forehead. This place is hell, I thought as Ethan finally trudged home. It had taken him 5 hours to walk back from the hotel, a distance that should have taken about 2. He must have really dreaded coming back. I'm home. Ethan mumbled as he timidly stepped inside. My father-in-law shot him at a fierce glare. Who the hell are you? You don't have permission to enter. Get out! Oh, wait! Dad, please! Before Ethan could finish his plea, my father-in-law yanked his arm so hard I thought his shoulder might dislocate and throw him. I felt grateful for my father-in-law in that moment. Ethan always said that his father was scary when angry, so I knew this would have a greater impact than on my own anger. Hand over the car keys. Ethan, completely bewildered, handed over the keys. My father-in-law began his interrogation. Where were you today, leaving Isabella behind? I'm asking you, where were you? At a hotel. He couldn't even stand up. I know that already. With whom were you? Don't tell me you were alone. Speak up. If you lie, I'll leave you out there all night. My father-in-law is not one to make empty threats. He took the keys so Ethan couldn't escape in the car. Sweat began to pour from Ethan. Thought it wasn't particularly hot. Cold sweat, I suppose. She's a temp at the office. Ethan mumbled, then fell silent. Speak up. If I have to keep asking you, I'll throw you out. Terrified, I thought, but I was smiling behind my father-in-law. In a whimpering voice, Ethan started to confess. He said he found the temp cute and just wanted to chat a little. But she was much more receptive than he expected, and before he knew it, they were involved. Flattered by the attention of a younger woman, he got carried away and lost control of the situation. Ethan spilled his guts, every last detail. I have to admit, I was somewhat pleased when he said, I found the temp attractive. Probably because she reminded me of myself. I felt like it was a roundabout compliment. But that doesn't mean I'm about to forgive him. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. I understand. Call her now. Tell her it's over. With his back against the wall, Ethan did as he was told and dialed her number. Hey, it's me. I'm sorry about the lunch. The moment the call connected, Ethan stuttered, unsure of how to start the conversation. But then a voice roared through the phone. I've had enough of you. And there was a beep beep of disconnection. She just broke up with me. I thought to myself, you didn't break up with her, she dumped you. Poor Ethan. You didn't initiate the breakup, it was because you lacked sincerity. You are truly indecisive. My father-in-law scolded Ethan, making him shrink even more. Do you realize how bad you've been to Chloe and Isabella? When he yelled this, Ethan finally responded loudly. Of course I do. I want to strip this guy naked and throw him out, but what does Chloe want? Caught off guard by the question, I took a moment to think. Honestly, I didn't want to break up. I believe I can live happily with just Isabella and me, but I do love Ethan. The only other thing that came to mind was that I never want him to cheat again. Divorce. The moment I muttered the word, Ethan jolted, his shoulders shaking. Please, anything but divorce. I was wrong. I betrayed you and Isabella. I was the worst. Well, he's not wrong there. He's just stating the obvious. Thought it did amuse me slightly. He repeated, I'm so sorry, again and again, offering a deep apology. His face was hidden as he bowed low to the floor, but I could tell from his voice he was sobbing. I'll never cheat again, he pleaded, to which I finally replied. Sign the divorce papers. I'll keep them. Depending on your behavior, I can file them at any moment. At my words, Ethan lifted his head, perhaps thinking he had dodged a bullet. And you are on an allowance from now on, only enough for lunch, and you'll do the housework. Ethan's face, which had momentarily brightened, dimmed slightly. Also, we are putting GPS on your phone, and you're not allowed to go out alone with Isabella. Either I or your father will accompany you. I continued laying out the terms. Go immediately when I ask you to shop. Fulfill all my requests. Oh yes, when I say housework, I mean everything from taking out the trash in the morning, shopping, cleaning, preparing dinner, to doing the laundry for the next morning. It's an all-day task. In other words, he'd have to become our own personal errand boy. There's no dignity as a husband or a father in that. If that's okay with you, then I won't divorce you. But remember, this isn't valid if I'm upset. I can't believe the audacity of what I'm saying. I'm basically telling him to keep me pleased all the time. But in the end, he's the one at fault. This much should be permissible. If he's busy, he won't have the time or the mind to cheat, right? Ethan, with a tearful expression, agreed, saying, I'm fine with that. Immediately, my father-in-law interjected, not I'm fine with that, but thank you for going that far for me, right? As advised, Ethan corrected himself. It seemed like I had completely exploited his weakness and didn't allow him any say. 6 years have passed since then. I still keep the divorce papers locked in a drawer, out of Ethan's reach. Ethan doesn't seem to be showing any signs of cheating either. Rather than trying to keep me happy, it seems to have become a natural part of him. No wonder our teenager daughter, Isabella, still mocks him, saying, your actions back then were just unthinkable. Ethan seemed to find being disliked by Isabella several times more painful than being scolded by my father-in-law or me. As Isabella grew, his determination to be a better husband became more and more apparent. Thanks to that, I'm happy. Don't misunderstand. It's not that I have forgiven Ethan for his one-time mistake. The agreement I made with Ethan at that time, to not divorce him, was to protect my own happiness. My ultimate goal was for the three of us in this family to live harmoniously. Even if Ethan had wanted to break up, the conclusion would have been the same. I had no intention to divorce, even if it meant binding a resistant Ethan. However, as long as he fears being served divorce papers, I suppose it's okay to think that we're in love. Now, Ethan cherishes our family, not because he's bound to me, but of his own accord. That's why this story is about the most challenging time in my life. Looking at my family now, I can confidently say that such a thing will never happen again. As evidence, I'm very happy now. I want everyone listening to this to know, don't think you can easily destroy the family I've built. Even if the world turns upside down, I won't let go of Ethan, just so you know.